Rewired. This is me, my life rewired.
Hi, welcome to Life Rewired. If you're here for inspiration, you have come to the right place because today's guest is going to leave you very inspired. We've had a talk off camera, and I think we could have talked for 6 hours and never even missed a beat. Welcome to the program, Rachel, and you can reach her at Rachel's CCI Path. Today, we're going to learn what CCI means. This was new to me. Hi,
Thank
Rachel.
You. Yeah, thank you for having me and the work you're doing. I really appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And the same for you as well.
Thanks. Yeah.
And we know mutual people, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, totally. That's how I learned about you. So that's great.
Yeah. So tell us, what is CCI?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a complicated one, but generally, there's a lot of people out there who are having. It happens for different reasons, but I'll just explain more like mine. A traumatic accident. We have a lot of post-concussion syndrome symptoms, whiplash, all of that. But essentially, what's happened is the ligaments that hold my head to my neck were very damaged, and it was causing compression on my neurological structures. So that meant that I was having less blood flow to my brain. It meant that some of my nerves were compressed. It meant that my top vertebrae was tilted, so my cerebral spinal fluid was backlogging a little bit, putting some pressure on my brain. And it's a really important one to talk about because there's a lot of people who are like living with this condition unknowingly. And I feel like part of my mission, this condition I was living with for 14 years after an accident and a traumatic brain injury and all the works with it as well. But I didn't discover this, which was my most severe pathology, for 14 years. And by the time I did, I was having severe neurological symptoms, very high risk, and had to be triaged essentially for neurosurgical intervention. But I also feel like there's a lot of people out there who have this type of injury. It's showing up as more just concussion. Mm-hmm. They're not getting the relief they need with their symptoms with regular concussion management. Yeah. And with earlier intervention, there's just way more options, way less damage. And it's not studied in medicine. So it is a massive gap in medical assessment, screening, care, and even having criteria for patients like us, even at the most severe spectrum.
Yeah. So you discovered this after your accident?
Yeah, so I was in a motor vehicle accident, like a highway accident or whatever, and I went and had lots of assessments, and they found things like a traumatic brain injury and damage to my inner ears and thoracic outlet, like all these things. But nothing was really explaining like some of the symptom patterns I was having and why I wasn't getting better and why certain conservative care wasn't helping me, right? So, for example, I was doing vestibular therapy and my symptoms got worse, which doesn't make sense. But when you learn that your head isn't held to your neck and you're doing manipulations, moving your head in certain ways, although my inner ears may have benefited from that, it aggravated my brainstem, and so I had a lot of symptoms as a result. So my story took 14 years after my accident to get my diagnosis, and by that point I always had symptoms. I had a lot of neurological symptoms and visual and dizziness and headaches and cognitive, all of that. But then I progressed to the point where I was having like difficulty with like speech production, earlier on intermittent paralysis. And then as it escalated, I was having like more dysautonomia. So I was having like weird tachycardia or variables in my heart and GI issues. And it's like the full mixed bag.
Yeah.
And I lost my train of thought, so it's perfect time for a question.
Okay, so I want to see if my brain is keeping up with what you're saying.
And I talk too fast when I'm trying to keep track.
Don't apologize. Don't apologize, please. So basically, the car accident, that's how you discovered what's going on, but you had been having the symptoms prior to the car accident?
Oh, no. Okay, so opposite. The car accident caused this damage.
Okay.
And we flagged all sorts of things, but over the years, I did my therapies and my protocols and all these things, but I kept getting worse neurologically. Gotcha. And then towards the end, I was, unable to walk and unable, like locking in, so not able to like move. Eventually I couldn't swallow, like a very severe, essentially life threatening,
Yeah.
before I was diagnosed by luck and by chance. Um, yeah, through Dr. Blaskovich at the Whiplash Clinic. And someone had heard about him and they were just like, I don't understand why she's not getting well. I don't understand what's happening. And they're like, I just think this could be the issue. And it was.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what did Dr. B do? We I always called him Dr. B because I can never
Yeah.
say it. So you're ahead of the scale on me.
Yeah.
So how did
What
he
do you,
diagnose it?
yeah. So just as the background, I was having so many visual symptoms that I was
Mhm.
going to visual vestibular rehab and I wasn't making progress. And this physician in our local area heard about Dr. Blaskovich and his work. And I went there and we did something called digital motion x-ray. So it's essentially like an x-ray video. They use
Oh,
it in surgeries. It's fluoroscopy adapted essentially. So instead of just getting an x-ray, you're able to see the patient move in different positions and with gravity
gotcha.
being upright. And that gave a lot of really good information because,
Yeah.
the vertebrae aren't supposed to slip. You can tell where it's slipping, how it's slipping, and then based on which ligaments are supposed to hold what, that kind of tells you what's
Hmm.
going on.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, you can see the discs like that on the X-rays, but a video X-ray, that's mind blowing.
Yeah, and so the other thing that's interesting about this is in medicine, they're essentially studying C3 down, which is your, sorry, there's your skull, and below your
Yeah.
skull is C1 and 2.
Hmm.
And that is the most mobile part of your spine. It's what helps you turn left and right, which I can't do. I'm fused. And it's also houses your most important dense neurological structures. So your brain is super important, but your brainstem is like your brain, but much more dense. And
Yeah.
that's what's housed in C1 and 2. And then below that is C3, which has discs and everything. So in medicine, they're not really training physicians about this area. If you
Yeah.
go for imaging, they're often not even including it in the scans, and they're often not remarking on it. So they can tell when something with the disc is happening much more obviously, but they're not. It's actually something different countries are working on, including Canada, is getting criteria because some of us are actually having imaging where we should be flagged and we're not, and we're
Mm.
unknowingly getting worse. Um, yeah, where it starts to become much more severe.
Yeah. So basically, after you've got the diagnosis, what's the next? What's the first thing we do?
So, I mean, on the plus side, if someone else is diagnosed early, you start at the least invasive conservative care possible. So now that you know that you have this, you can also start to learn about what you shouldn't do. So, for example, in order when your ligaments aren't holding your vertebrae together, your
Hmm.
muscles are going to be very tight. That's guarding, it's protecting you neurologically. And in medicine, they often are trying to do things like Botox and whatnot to get the muscles to disengage. But if you have this condition, you don't want that to happen because it can actually make things worse in the long run and your symptoms neurologically worse. So
Yeah.
the good thing is early on, if you know the things not to do, that's a win already because you're like, okay, all these things that we wondered why it wasn't working and why I think it's making me worse probably is, and you stop doing those things and you transition into something else.
Yeah.
Least invasive care for some patients would be like what Dr. Blaskovich does, which is like the Nemo receptor tonus technique. Essentially, what they're just trying to do is um, work on those involuntary muscles that hold your vertebrae together. So, like when you're slipping, there's muscles that you can't control; they're inner.
Yeah.
Your spine controls them, not your brain, and so those muscles get really really fatigued. And so essentially, what they're working with is reconditioning them so that when they slip, the vertebrae slips, the muscles can actually do their job versus being stuck in a held position. And so there's some patients who are doing really well with that. Working with the neck, like some people are doing a little more invasive would be like prolotherapy. So unlike cortisone or Botox, which like Botox kind of shuts down the muscle, cortisone's an anti-inflammatory, but it can also eat away at cartilage as an example.
Yeah.
Regenerative medicine would be like prolo would be, I think it's like medical dextrose, which essentially all it's doing is it's getting the body to cause a reaction, which is enough inflammation that the tissues can do some healing. I don't think ligaments technically heal, but there's other methods that can be done that can give someone a bit more structural integrity.
Yeah.
But because of how high risk C1-2 is, because of what's behind it, sorry, this is so much information. I will get better at figuring out how to reduce it, but because of how complicated it is and how difficult it is to reach that region, CCI is technically from your skull to C2. That's harder to treat with those types of procedures. There's only a couple places in the world. One is in Colorado in the States where you are, where they essentially have to go, you're under general and go through your throat to try to treat those ligaments. Yeah, I know. It's quite the thing.
Fun.
Yeah, but for some people, they can work with their upper neck less invasively. Sometimes they work with their middle neck and they kind of can make some gains. Some people work with posture. Some people work with like having a better workstation workup. It depends how progressed your condition is and how serious your symptoms are. There's definitely hope and there's definitely things people can do. In my case, I wasn't stable enough, so I ended up pretty soon after ended up having neurosurgery, which is extremely high risk, and it's also very few people perform this type of operation. So it's partly the difficulty is so neurosurgery sounds like the hardest thing of all the world of surgery, right? Because it's brain. But apparently, from my understanding, is skull-based surgery is like the higher level of that of difficulties because the region is so dense with like nerves and brainstem and whatnot. So this is like essentially skull-based surgery. So I think there's like maybe 4 people in the USA what you have a lot more expertise in. We don't actually have anyone in Canada anymore to treat people with this. And there's a couple in Spain. I believe there's someone in Italy who's been doing it, but it's been really, really tricky to get traction with this condition and get the word out and get enough expertise and also support people earlier so they don't end up in the situation because you go in and you have no idea how you're going to come out because it is very high risk.
So if you would have got diagnosed a long time ago, like in the very beginning, you probably would have had to go through what you went through, right?
I don't know. Like, it's hard to say how much damage was immediately done from the car accident. I know when I had surgery, Dr. Blaskovich told me that it was described as floating head. So I had no ligaments holding me. So that's a big deal. Yeah. What I do know is that if I was diagnosed earlier, I would have done what I could to avoid surgery. Yeah. But I would have acted earlier in the sense of being able to limit irritation and damage to those structures because I do live with a lot of symptoms today. And I think that like when people can manage it, even if they end up towards surgery, they can go into surgery with essentially less like brain and important damage done. And I think that's also really important too. Because if you go in, I mean, I went in very vulnerable, like I wasn't walking, I was just a total mess. And that can also affect outcomes. I was very lucky, and I was very lucky my surgeon was so experienced. A very rare opportunity that he took me on in a sense. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, did I hear correctly that your spine was fused?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So my CCI is like your upper cervical, that's fused.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. So once that's a done deal, right?
And you hope it lasts you a lifetime. And you hope the rest of your vertebrae, because I have some instability in my lower vertebrae last, but it's given me a new lease at life. Recovery is being slow because of the last levels of downhill I made, but I'm still making gains.
Good.
Yeah, so I'm really lucky. And I've got good tools because I have years of living with brain injury and brain injury symptoms. So I have a lot of practice, more than I prefer, but yeah.
Yeah, you've dealt with this for that many years. I'm just going into my 6 years soon. So yeah, I've got a lot of catching up to do, don't I?
I don't know. I feel like you probably are at the advanced stage. And I think there's different ebbs and flows, and there's different things we process, and there's different challenges that occur, and like it kind of depends what's going on in life. Like
Yeah.
I think a year in, you've a lot of people have learned a lot, but especially those first few years.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
why people like yourself and myself are doing what we're doing to educate people, because there's why do we want people to have to recreate the wheel?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, and
know?
also just the normalization. Like I feel like what I appreciate about you doing is it's like kind of normalizing that success doesn't look like perfect wellness necessarily, but it's like,
Yeah,
how do you
exactly.
do the right things? How do you find strategies? How do you even find community? Like there's just a lot of pieces. um and also too, like for every neurological challenge I still have, I think I've developed a lot of strategy and sometimes courage, because it's daunting when we live with a lot of symptoms, or I still have a lot of
Yep.
risk factors and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hey, I still have good days and bad days. And like
Yeah.
we had a conversation yesterday, I think it was. I was trying to ask for an orange, and my wife and I kept saying grapes. And my wife's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, they're right on the top shelf." I'm like, "No, I want some grapes." And she's like,
Yeah.
"They're on the top shelf." I'm like, "No, I want grapes." And she
Yeah.
goes, "Are you asking for oranges?" Yeah, grapes.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like I was listening to some of your older episodes about that sort of thing, and I was like, my brain was going, and it's like it's almost like we do so much to function at a high level, especially when we have brain injury, but it's almost
Hmm.
like we're running so many systems at once in a way that takes a lot of energy that like
Hmm.
we won't necessarily know we've done a replacement. Like our brain
Yeah.
is like, yep, checkbox, we've got the right word. And so we just keep going through it, and we're like, it's hard to know that something's off, like the amount of time I
Yeah.
replace words or miss something. Or I was actually listening to your memory episode as I was in the kitchen, and I kept being like, oh, I have to write something on the calendar. And so I turn around and go to do it. And then I go over there and I was like, what was it again? I couldn't figure it out. So I went back over and I did it like 3 times. And I was like, this is a saturated brain. It's
Yeah.
not just a memory thing. It's that like I'm juggling my balance, my vision, all these things that are extras. And
Hmm.
I'm probably just a little tired. And then you go into the brain fog where it's just like, and then also the like another thing I don't think people realize is a skill, and it doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's frustrating, and sometimes our nervous systems elevate. Is just like to live like that and to keep maintain our cool as much as we do is like also like such a testament to this like internal anchor and strength, because it's really taxing, annoying, and it takes way
Hmm.
more energy, and we have less of it.
I'll share a funny story with you. And she won't mind me telling you this, or that's why I'm telling you that right up front. I won't say her name though, but she's in one of my support groups. And she told me that her and her husband was at the grocery store a couple of days ago, and she said the lady was bagging my groceries, so she was just throwing stuff behind her, and I'm like, she says, and the more she kept doing it, I was just like boiling over. And she said, I go, "Are you grumpy?" And she goes, "What?" And she goes, "You're abusing my groceries. Are you grumpy?" And she said, my husband laughed, and she said she slowed down. And she said,
Yeah.
I stood behind my husband like, "Oh, what did I just do?" And the person bagging her groceries was laughing their butt off.
Yeah.
But
It's
it's
also
like
that
the filter's gone.
yeah, but it's also like there's something about the earnestness of asking if you're grouchy, because I think about a lot of people losing their cool. Usually it's like more of a you're doing this kind of accusing thing, versus I love that it was a question. Are you grumpy? Like like help me close the loop. Like something seems off here. Like
It's hilarious.
yeah.
Hey, you know what? It's living with a brain injury is such an adventure. Some days it's good and some days it's bad, but you know what? I decided from the very beginning that I wasn't going to let this destroy me.
Yeah. Yeah. The tricky thing is like, in my experience and from people I've, talked to and supported or whatever, it's like we kind of have to make that choice. That doesn't mean we don't suffer at times. It doesn't mean we don't need to vent at times, but we have to actively try to find a way to be as okay as possible. And I know for myself, especially living so many years where I had this major pathology that wasn't diagnosed, I I always felt like I was supposed to be more okay than I was,
Mm-hmm.
and I almost felt like people didn't get why, like why can't she do this, or why does she seem okay sometimes and not other times, or whatever. And I realized, like, oh, this is the thing about my brain. It's like I was like making liftoff. I was up there. I was about to hang glide off the mountain, make it all come together, and then my brain was just like, yeah, you know what? That was a lot of work. We're just gonna have to take a pause.
That's a great example, though, of how it is living with a brain injury.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. And also too, like, I've learned, most of the time I will transition. So like I'll talk and then people think I've not lost my train of thought because I'll just like I'll pivot or I'll find a different word or whatever, which I think is also a skill set. And then there's other times where I'm like, I was, closing in on why I was saying something, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna say that I have no idea what I'm talking about now, like I lost it or whatever, because it just it can create less resistance, I guess. Like it's just a little less taxing, and I'm just like, I got nothing to hide. Like, some days I seem good, or some places I seem good. Like, you see me go for a walk, I seem pretty good. You put me in a grocery store and I fall over. Like, it varies. Like, that's just how it is living in my body and brain.
Hey, keep them guessing, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And there's times, I don't know if you do this or not, but there's times that my brain just like goes backwards,
Yeah.
and we'll be sitting there having dinner and I'll go, I put it on the shelf downstairs. And my wife's put what on the shelf downstairs? We weren't talking about anything. The toilet paper. You told me to put it up, and I put it on the shelf downstairs. Like, that was this morning that we were talking about that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but like quality assurance, you still got back to her, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
did.
if that was.
Hey,
You
it
know,
might
it's,
take me an hour, it might take me 2 weeks, but I'll get to you.
it's kind of interesting too, because like from what you said, I'm picking up two things. One is that it kind of came out of nowhere,
Oh yeah.
but the other is that it was kind of buried in your brain. Like, in some ways, I'm like so impressed by that, because obviously short-term memory loss is still a real thing,
Mm-hmm.
but somehow it went in there, and there's this like system running in the background, and somehow it came out, even if it was like at the weirdest time where no one knows why. Um, which, yeah, I find brains so fascinating. Actually, I heard you talking about being in a grocery store and not your wife using sarcasm and not picking it up. Um, yeah, and like, I mean, that might just be a change in the brain as well. But I was
Yeah.
like, oh, he was in the grocery store. Like, your brain is probably so saturated juggling that environment already, would make it even
Mm-hmm.
harder to pick up on those cues. Whereas, do you
Oh
find
yeah.
sometimes, like, when you're less tired or lower sensory environments, you're picking up like the jokes more?
Sometimes I do. Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of times though, my wife will. I don't know if it's the look that I'm giving her or that she knows me better than I know
yeah,
myself, but she'll say, "I'm being sarcastic,"
yeah,
or she'll say, "I'm
yeah,
joking."
yeah.
She knows.
So you're just like, okay, love of my life. I either do two things. I either assume you're joking all the time, or assume you're joking none of the time.
But with me, she never takes me seriously because I'm always joking.
Yeah. How long were you together before your brain injury?
Let's see. We have been married 7 years,
Okay.
and
Oh, 27. Wow.
yeah, and it'll be 6 years in July. So
Okay.
yeah,
Wow,
what a long
21.
time.
Yeah, that is a
Yeah.
long imprint. For myself, when I had my car accident, I was only with my husband 7 months.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so he saw me, the brighter days, and then this constant pursuit of trying to get better, and then having all these like slipbacks in my health. And then actually we got married 8 years in, and almost 2 weeks after our wedding, he was hit by a car and had a brain bleed. So I
Oh my
also got to know him before and after a brain injury.
goodness.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So you guys are each other's caregivers then.
yeah, it's definitely like, it was weird being on the other side of it.
Hmm.
But also because I'd also had re-injuries and fallen through so many cracks, I had this like deep conviction to like stand in the way sometimes to help him orientate things differently. So like for example, earlier on, he had the type of brain injury like the physiatrist was saying where he didn't realize how not okay he was. Like he could, when he would be around people or at appointments, he had no idea what they were talking about. He couldn't understand anything, but he'd memorize one difficult word, and then try to like prove that he was like a-okay or whatever. And so then when people, he'd see friends and family, he didn't want them to know how not okay he was. So they would be like, oh yeah, like, let's go skiing, let's do this and that. And because I realized like my re-injury changed things very dramatically for me, I was just like, I love him too much to not like want to really push to get time between, because I kept saying to him like, we just, we're dealing with what we're dealing with, but we have to play our cards as best we can. And we have different opportunities. We can't control everything, but the things that we can do right can pay off in the long run. So yeah. Exactly. But yeah, brain injury, tough. Both sides, tough.
Yes. I wouldn't want to be a caregiver, so all the Purple Hearts to you for doing that. I know what I put my wife through.
Yeah,
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and it's hard too because it's just like when a brain is so flooded with information, like it's tough. And like people will say like, oh, it's emotional regulation, but there's a lot of physiological things happening where you can build tools, but essentially it's like trying to learn how to regulate when our whole nervous systems are redlining. And it's different than just feeling overwhelmed in a more general way. Like there's parallels, but there's also differences. So it's a tricky one, but I loved him enough to get in the way, and it definitely made a difference. And he was definitely mad at me he's okay with me saying this, like for a lot of like for those first few years. But as his brain was healing, he also understood it differently. And we really grew together because we've been together almost 17 years now.
Wow. Congratulations.
I know. I can't believe we made it through all these things. Like both of us almost died.
If you can live through that with a brain injury, both of you having a brain injury, you guys have, there's no stopping you.
Yeah. I mean, life can throw a lot of curveballs. You try to grow together. And also sometimes there's just some really tough times, like where there's a lot of uncertainty and it's scary and you don't know what's going to happen. But I think a lot of people dealing with any type of adversity, but especially health and complex health, it's like you really have to find a way to be okay when there's like less control. I was listening to a lady on the radio talking about some loss. I think her house burned down or whatever, a huge deal. And then she's like, but you know what's most important? At least I have my health. And this is back when I was really unwell. I was just like sobbing. I was just like, I don't like, but it was that whole piece of like, and when now I've improved, but I still like am primarily housebound, and like getting in the car is like a whole challenge neurologically and all that stuff. But you just have to find ways to be okay as possible and use your strategies and carve out as much health and wellness as possible. And healing is very relative.
It amazes me that people will say things like, how do you do it? I hate that when they do it. I just want to answer their questions, but I hate it when I do it because I'm like, what if I cut my leg off? I'd have to, right? What choice would I have? So
it's true. I guess like, is there a connotation when they're asking you that like, is there a piece that stings about it?
I think to me, it's just like, I don't know what it is. I really don't. But it's just like, I do it because I have to. And I know they're not. If people knew that it was insensitive, they wouldn't say it. You know?
I guess too, like, actually, as you're saying, it's helping me reflect is like, sometimes it's who says what and how much I feel understood. Like, I think that can make a big difference in like, if someone came to me, and maybe this is because I was minimized for so long until I realized like why, my basic body was failing, is like, people just kept being like, well, why don't you snap out of it? Why don't you try harder? And so
Yeah.
I I guess because it was like, I think in a way for me, if I reduce it down to something as I feel like one of the strongest traits I've built is my character, but it
Hmm.
was one of the first that felt questioned
Yeah.
because it was like, either I'm being lazy or I'm not trying hard enough or I'm being a princess or I have
Hmm.
some psychosomatic problem, I'm not tough or whatever. So I guess at the same time, yeah, it depends who it is and how safe it is. But sometimes when people are like, "Whoa, you're hardcore," I'm like, "Yeah." Like I need to connect with it to be like, okay, like I genuinely am working hard and this is worth something. And a lot of people maybe could figure it out, but it's also takes a lot of work to get there, I guess.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
my favorite one is when they'll say, "You don't look like you have a brain injury." Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. It's also like my brain goes to the science right away. I'm like, well, it depends on the type of brain injury. Like if the brain injury affects your facial nerves, maybe you think someone has like, or your cranial nerves, right? It's not
Yeah.
actually your brain, but like maybe that looks like a brain injury to people, but that's not actually a brain injury. And then the other is I was listening to an audiobook. I feel like it's called like Ghosts in My Brain. Anyways, it's a guy. He's like a professor. He gets in a car accident and he's having like all of these complex words symptoms, but he's saying that people don't understand how not okay he is because he could like perform and sound clear for 15 minutes and then he would just drop right off. And it was like
Mm.
the cognitive load was so severe that he would go from having a certain level of clarity while not being able to understand what he was saying to a complete drop off and very severe impairment. But people would be like, oh, like, why are you acting like that versus seeing it as like this combination of like, where's your brain affected? How
Hmm.
much juggling are you doing with the type of task? Like, what tasks are harder for you than other tasks? Like, yeah, there's just so many pieces.
It's kind of like buying a brand new computer that has a real small hard drive on it, and you put 3 apps on it, and your hard drive's full. It's like,
Yeah,
"Now I
it's
put
like
3 apps
running
on it.
hot.
It took those really great. Now all of a sudden, it won't take any more apps. Good. Well,
Yeah.
cognitive overload."
Yeah, totally. Like
Yeah.
I remember being so confused with myself, especially when I started having more like motor function issues. I was like, well, I'm keeping my balance somewhat at home, and I'm like, why when I go out, like my legs were flopping out and like I was having so much difficulty. And then I was like, well, even as simply as you when you so with brain injury for some people we have visual vestibular mismatch. Essentially it means that the data from our inner ears doesn't match our eyes, so our body thinks we're in
Yeah.
constant motion and it's trying to guard for it. So when you're in an environment that is novel, meaning new or less familiar, you're going to feel like you're falling all the time. Whereas if you're in
Hmm.
an environment where your brain keeps remapping and memorizing it, you still feel like you're going to fall, but you can override it with a little bit more ease.
Hmm.
Or I was even noticing like, okay, like yeah, but I'm literally touching every single wall as I go around to not feel like I'm falling over. And so it's like also I feel like why these conversations about different types of brain injury and strategies are also so important is I feel like sometimes it also can help us be attuned to like, oh, like that's so smart that my brain and body have figured out how to do these things to create more points of ease, and that it's like it's a legitimate thing and it's not because I'm scared going out in the world, it's that I have less anchor points or I don't have the same strategies out there as I do in the home. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to have environments that take less energy as an example.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find it challenging when I go somewhere that's got like a tiled floor that's got all of these designs in it,
Yeah.
and I have to walk like this.
Yeah. So you
Looking at it
keep
makes me
your
dizzy.
yeah. Well, and also too, that's really interesting too. Like that whole piece of like part of brain injury is like sometimes it's like having less energy for something, but you're also having to filter out all of this information that people aren't going to be taxed by. Like if a healthy brain experienced the disorientation we are, they would get tired, but they also have a bigger battery to start.
Right.
Um, yeah, and it's interesting how you say that. Or like I like it when it's sunny out, but at the same time, as I'm walking and the sun's coming through like the trees, the shadows moving, my brain thinks like it's like a tiled floor only in motion, and it's
Yes.
like yeah, it's taking me like over a year and a half to um like not fall over from things like that, like,
Hmm.
which is cool because you can build new pathways, but it's also interesting that like
You just hit one of my top three probably pet peeves is the sun through the leaves like that. And another
yeah.
one is if I'm driving down the road and a train drives by me, I
Oh,
can't
the
handle that.
opposite movement.
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah,
doesn't even matter if it's going the same way as I am, but that just that movement
yeah,
in my peripheral vision, I've got to pull over and just let it go by
yeah. I
because I
mean,
just don't do it.
good on you for also being like, oh, okay, like, because people also commonly be like, oh, you just have to keep practicing, but there's also a window of opportunity and challenging our system, and then there's, if it's always maxing us like neurologically, that's not great for learning in our brains.
Right.
um do you actually find that with the train, the loud, like the low noises also mess with your balance or brain?
Hmm.
Yeah, those extra pieces. um
You know what else does? The ticking of a clock. Yeah. We
it,
have no clocks in our house that tick.
yeah, is it because it's like there's this, it's like not consistent but consistent, and then it just won't stop, so your brain keeps trying
Yeah.
to check it, the sound
Well,
kind
that
of.
it's that audio sensory thing I think it's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah,
We were at,
yeah,
I can't remember where we were at now, but I said something to one of the doctors and I said, "Does that get on your nerves?" And he says, "Does what get on my nerves?" I said, "The ticking." He goes, "I don't hear any ticking. What are you talking about?" And I said, "Your clock." And he goes, "I've never even heard it." I'm like, "How can you miss that?" It's like a big, to me, it's like
yeah,
someone beating a drum, but
yeah.
it's nothing to him because he's there and he just doesn't pay attention to it.
And it's also part of brain injury is like not being able to filter, and our brains not being able to prioritize what we're paying attention to, because I don't want to pay attention to something like,
Hmm.
but it can actually like halt our brains, and it's not because we're fixated on the sound, it's because it, it loops in a weird way that it like takes concentration almost. I wonder if our brains are also like, oh, we have to identify, but then now we can't stop identifying.
Yeah.
um it's, yeah, it's very interesting. And another thing I found interesting was going from I mean, I was paralyzed as a result of this condition, and then as after surgery I had some good gains, but I also have a lot of like brain balance, motor control stuff I'm working with. And for about the first year and a half I always had to walk with someone, and their motion would throw me off like the train, but I also needed their, if the person walking beside me walked a little bit further behind, my brain would actually follow them in my, just my barely my peripheral, to know where I was in space so I didn't fall all the time. Like,
Hmm.
it's interesting how you can use that. And then I also realized I would use sound to help with my balance. And so it becoming so severe also taught me like, oh, when things weren't as severe, like with the sound of the clock or the low booming train, like our brains are probably actually trying to get different information to help calibrate us so that we can do these functions with these adaptations in brain nerve pathways, whatever, uh, after a brain injury.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. It's
yeah,
isn't it amazing? The brain just fascinates me.
yeah. It is. I feel like the more I understand, I don't. I mean, I keep practice talking about it because it's how do you formulate. But the more I understand, the more I'm like, wow, like that's really resourceful versus it just being like, oh, I'm overwhelmed by sound. It's like, oh, well, I'm overwhelmed by sound because it's too much. I'm overwhelmed by sound because I use it as like honing in where I'm in space. I'm overwhelmed by
Hmm.
sound because my brain can't prioritize. Like, it's pretty cool to see all these different layers. And it's also being part of my like in a way like brain injury rehab process that I've kind of implemented myself, is like when I have a little bit of energy, like learning. So sometimes I can't. It's I the words happen too fast. I can't jumble them, whatever. But at
Hmm.
other times, I feel like learning empowers me, but it also practices that part of my system where I'm like, can I absorb this information? Like, which usually it's no. I have to listen to it like a bunch of times, and then
Yeah.
finally an imprint.
I have to read things over and over and over and over again for it to stick.
Yeah.
And then in a couple weeks
Yeah.
it'll be gone, but that's okay. But still, I get
Yeah.
the gist of it.
Do you find that your visual coordination is affected from your head injury?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
The more fatigued I am, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
running into walls.
Yeah. Do you think that, like, sorry, is this okay to ask specific
Yeah,
questions?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm an
Okay.
open book.
Do you think that the reading it a bunch, I'm just asking because of some of my own, I mean, I can't read now, but like some of the reasons I couldn't process what I was reading was, one, you read the word, which is like a task because it's like the
Hmm.
visual coordination. Then you have to see the word. Then you have to know what the word means. Then you have to actually remember enough words together that you can remember a sentence.
Hmm.
And if reading in any which way is making a person feel a little more motion sensitivity, you're like trying to remember three sentences in a row while you're on a boat, essentially. Um,
Yep. That's a very good analogy. Yes.
yeah. So I can see how it's like, it's not just the reading, it's that like there's all of this stress load. And then it's like, then I'm supposed to retain it? Like, I don't
Hmm.
know. Like, yeah.
Oh gosh, when I wrote my book, it took me forever because I had to keep going back and reread what I wrote. S-
Yeah.
be- And it was funny because my publisher, she would say, "You wrote about the same thing 3 times." I'm like, "Oh, didn't know I did that."
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's also like, this is like the hardest thing about anything. Like, I use a lot of adaptive technology, like speech to text, text to speech. But if I have to edit anything, like you, once I've gone through it once, I don't remember if it's the thing I just read when I was editing it or if it's
uh-huh.
up above. And I'm like, is it in the document? Is it in the document three times? Like, it's it's pretty cool that you wrote something with like all of this. I haven't heard it yet because is it, yeah, I everything has
I
audiobook
got
for
to get
me
it
at
on
this point.
audiobook. I haven't done that yet, and
Yeah.
it's on my to-do list.
Oh my god.
My
I'm sure the
publisher
to-do
keeps
list is
telling me I need
long.
to do it. So
Yeah. That's so cool that you did that. And what like inspired you to want to take that step towards, communicating in that way with your, because it's about your story, I take it.
it's about my story, but it's about all the traumas that I've lived because I've lived through so much,
Yeah.
more than I would like to admit to. But yeah,
Yeah.
but when I started writing it, it's like God was telling me. Well, He wasn't telling me. I didn't hear the physical voice of God, but it was just like He kept putting memories in my head of this happened to you and this, and I'm
Yeah.
going, why do I keep thinking of all these things? And then I'm like, you know what? If I want to write a book about trauma, let's write
Yeah.
a book about trauma
Yeah.
because I mean, we're talking um, sexual abuse,
Yeah.
um, abuse from my mother, bullies, things like that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
if I want to help people,
Yeah.
I've got to be transparent.
Yeah.
And how can I help you if I can't say this is what I've lived through and this is how I did it? So that's why I wrote it.
But also incredible too because like it's really really like I hear what you're saying where like how can I do this if I don't put myself
Hmm.
out there, but the ongoing strength that it takes to keep putting ourselves out there and also
Yeah.
putting our most vulnerable selves out there, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Because yeah, I mean, I think it's a really really powerful thing to do, and I'm actually like I didn't know that all of that is what you're writing about. I'm well, I don't have the right word because it sounds almost fluffy, but like I'm in awe of it because it is such a big deal to put like especially our most vulnerable formative self out there,
Hmm.
or even like I saw in one of your videos like talking about like I only know a little bit about like your mom, the way she treated you, and I'm just like that's so hard to put into space, but also sorry, it sounds kind of funny, but also it's just the vulnerability it can bring up in our most like young self in a way,
Yeah.
like but it's also this adult guardianship because it's like yeah but this never belonged to me is kind of how I feel about my formative trauma or whatever, right? Is like
Hmm.
yes this makes me feel vulnerable, yes I have to do it in the right time that feels safe and be in step with myself, but the injustices that happen to me I live with the results of, but it never belonged to me in the sense I never had those choices, I just had to do the best I could with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could have said it better.
Thanks.
Seriously, yeah, you said that very well. I agree with you.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool that you're putting out there. Also, too, like I feel like in society, the more males that are putting these things out there too, I think is also really powerful mentoring and meaningful because we need more representation of like that we can have vulnerability, we can have been through trauma. What does it
Hmm.
mean to be strong? What does it mean to talk about feelings? Like all of these
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Which that's already hard enough for a man to begin with, is talking about their feelings, you know?
Yeah, and I don't think society makes it very easy. Like there's
They
all
don't.
this weird stigma. Like it's not even stigma, but like you think about a lot of the like slurs you can call a man, it's
Hmm.
like associated with femininity in a way.
Yeah,
Like but at the same time like, I think developing emotionally as a person takes so much strength and
it does.
but
Plus, I don't
yeah.
feel that TV and movies are doing justice to that because they enforce that stigma, and they shouldn't be
Totally.
doing that. So,
No, they should absolutely not be doing that. Also, the whole I remember people being like, "I don't want to be," or I've some of the males in my life, "I don't want to be a nice guy. Nice guys finish last," and I was just like I married a nice guy. Like I love nice people. Like I am
yeah.
drawn to like genuine kindness or people who are willing to grow or whatever. Like
Hmm.
it's yeah, there's stigma, but it's also so misinformed and it's also a vulnerability. Like obviously we like I'm careful. I put myself out there in ways, but I'm also careful because I just need to have that attunement with myself. But
Right.
um yeah, at the same time it takes strength to do. Like there's nothing weak
It
about
takes
it.
strength, but it also it's kind of like getting back to what you're saying earlier. The continuation of doing it. The
Yeah.
more you do it, the more easier it becomes to do it. You know,
Yeah.
if I could have told you a year ago that I was molested as a child, I could have done it. The
Oh
words would not
wow.
have come out of my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as I've talked about it and wrote
This is
about it,
fresh. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
it's easier. It does get easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also a lot of us like live with these secrets for a lot of years. Like we don't utter it to a soul. So
Hmm.
did you have some safe people you were able to dialogue with? Is this okay to ask these questions, by the
Oh,
way? Yeah.
absolutely. I'm an open
Just
book.
I like to check in. It also makes me feel like um I feel very respectful when people show these parts of themselves. And even if they're like, yeah, it's fine, there's just a part of me that's like, I just really like I just think it's such a I value it so much that I also want to handle it with care or
Yeah.
whatever. Did you have like a support system? Like, were you talking about it? Did you have a longer duration of time within a safer person that you could talk to
The
about?
first person that actually told was my best friend,
Okay.
and that was when we graduated high school.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm talking from 6 years of age till I was 1 9.
Wow. Yeah.
So after him, the next person that found out was my wife,
Yeah.
and then America found out this year.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but thankfully, my wife is one of those people that she likes to fix the problem.
Yeah.
She recognized that I needed help,
Yeah.
so she got me with a counselor.
Oh, cool.
Actually, I think I'm trying to remember how many counselors I went through, and I wrote about that in my book too. Therapy only works when you get with the correct counselor. They're not
Yes.
one size fits all.
No, no, not at all. And also, too, like sometimes we need a different person at different stages.
Hmm.
Like, I was thinking of a friend who was going through, when she was younger, like a major eating disorder. And she was like, she felt so unsafe talking to anyone. And then she finally found this right counselor who was like really formatively helpful. But then a few years in, she's like, she changed and she's like, I needed that person who could hold me accountable in a different way. Like that there was different,
Yeah.
even for the right fits, we
Uh huh.
sometimes need different people at different stages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
What's good for you right now doesn't mean that it's always going to be good for you.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
also remember when I was in school training to be a counselor, they were like talking, the instructor was talking about how like the representation of counseling in media is so awful. Like
Yes.
people really think they know what it's like. And there are unsafe people in all sorts of professions, or half whatever, like just not good. But yeah, I never really noticed that, and then I started paying attention, and I was like, oh yeah, like, oh, I would never do that. Oh, that's bad. Like that person's an asshole. Pardon my language. Yeah,
It's funny because my wife was so supportive of me getting the right person.
yeah,
The
that's
one
cool.
lady we went to, I wanted to just dart out the door because she was about 5 days older than God. And she had this little piece of spit that would start of here as she was talking and it'd go down here. I was waiting for her to offer me a hard candy. I'm not kidding you. I don't know what she said because I just kept watching this piece of spit go from here to here. And I was like,
I'm sorry, the 5 days older than God is that is a zinger. Oh my god. Well,
yeah.
yeah, and if you're distracted by sorry, that was brilliant.
The look on my
But yeah,
wife's face when I came out of the room, I was going, and
no.
she's
Well,
like,
and also we can feel like this is never going to work based on that.
yeah.
Like, and good on her for being like, okay, wrong person. Let's try
Mhm.
again. Like,
She goes, "Well,
yeah.
keep going." And the absolute funniest thing was the lady that I finally settled with. She could have been an identical twin to one of a great friend that I worked with at the time, and she felt like what you would want a mother to feel like.
Yeah.
I didn't feel judged like I would have been from my mother.
Yeah.
I didn't feel talked down to. She listened, and I was like, I feel like I'm talking to Pat. So,
Yeah. It's sometimes there's these pieces where obviously the way she conducted herself, but
mhm,
sometimes it's just like there's this little extra piece in our nervous system that's just like I feel like I feel okay with you, but I also feel like I can bring up vulnerability and still feel okay. Like it's
mhm,
always, it can always be a risk, but yeah, and also that healing too. Like, I mean, when you're a formative person, like your mom not being safe, like obviously that is a pain that is lifelong.
mhm,
Yet at the same time, I also feel like there are these really powerful pieces where we're able to give through these processes, like give care to those parts of ourselves that never were taken care of. And at least they're getting some airtime, space, love, support.
yeah,
Because like I think a lot of us who've had different types of trauma, like we don't realize how many strategies we've built to cope that if we can do some healing, they no longer serve us, and that can actually keep us further away from people, or
mhm.
we're less safe in the long run because we're trying to protect or
Oh yeah,
whatever. Or we don't notice, like especially a lot of us with trauma, like there will be places where we're resistant, we'll close off, and then there'll also be places where we're more compliant, where we're like, why am I allowing this thing in my life? But we don't realize like, oh well, that person growing up who made us feel like we had to act a certain way just to keep our environment as safe as possible. Like, yeah, like, we don't, we can evolve from there, but those tools serve us, but
yeah,
they can change if we, put the work in essentially.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't want to lose track of time without
Yeah.
giving you the opportunity to share any projects you're working on. Do you have a book in the process? Anything like that?
So, I mean, so I'm 2 years post surgery. I'm making gains. I feel like my brain is coming more to life, and I'm hoping I'll have, more freedoms, like be able to be in more busy environments, be able to be with more people and all that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I feel like what's really important to me is like there's a community of us starting to rally together to create awareness around this condition, but
Yeah.
also just in general, like I really, you know, complex health can be isolating. I really, really miss being in my career. I miss having this life and whatnot. And so I feel like, I guess what my goals are right now is just doing as much as I can for my rehab process, because I definitely, like this gives a different perception of like what the day to day is like, but I put the work in.
Yeah.
And then developing as much as I can, and then hopefully also like working with some organizations to, as I have capacity, build awareness. And then, yeah, I guess also just trying to be brave, because for me, talking about my vulnerable self or talking about my health is actually the opposite of what I felt safe talking about prior. But I think it's really, really important. People need that. I've got messages from people saying they didn't know what this thing was, but how I put myself out there helped them recognize it sooner.
That's awesome.
And I want people to have agency. And I
Yeah.
also, yeah, the one other thing too is like going through the medical system before this was caught, which is very objective, measurable data. Your head being dislocated is a big deal.
Yeah.
But so much of the time I was told my symptoms didn't make sense. They were inconsistent, which is not, they were variable, and all these other things. So I feel like, my current mission today is by processing my own things and putting this stuff out there that also other people get to have more agency, feel safer, and also hopefully more opportunities. But I don't get to know where my recovery is going to get me to, but I'm going to do as much as I can and connecting with people and yeah, and practice talking about this stuff, because when you have a lot of information in your head, it's a jumble and it's like, how do I
It is.
prioritize,
It is.
what is
But you know
important to
what?
say?
I feel like you're doing a really great job.
Really?
I
That's
really
nice. Thank
do.
you. Yeah.
You
I
have
won't
the
have
Rob
any
Baugh
memory
stamp of
imprint.
approval.
Hmm?
You have the Rob Baugh stamp of approval.
Oh, excellent.
That means absolutely nothing, but hey.
Well, I was just thinking, I was, sorry, last thing I'll say is about memory, short-term memory is like, it's like a stamp, like stamp pad, but I realized how much of the time my stamp pad doesn't have ink. And so when I
Uh-huh.
was literally thinking of that and you're like, you have the stamp of approval, I'm like, is it invisible ink?
I used to tell everybody, I've got a photographic memory. I'm just out of film.
Yeah. Oh,
My
totally.
wife will say,
Or,
stop saying that because film is like, doesn't even exist anymore.
oh no, it's a perfect analogy for me, and I'll take it a step further, which is like I have photographic memory, except for every time I go to share the film, I open it and expose it to the light, and all of it disappears.
Yep. That's me. Some days my memory's like an etch a sketch.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this real quick story and we'll wrap it up.
yeah.
I picked up my mother-in-law from dialysis today, and I stopped by Bob Evans to get some soup because my wife wanted soup. And she's like, I want some soup too. So I went in for soup for everybody. Everybody gets soup. I feel like the soup Nazi. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah, literally, that's
there
what I
was
thought.
literally 3 cars in the parking lot. Why did one of the cars look like mine? I went to get in that car, and I'm like, wait a minute. I know oh, this is not my car. So I had to walk all the
Yeah.
way back up to the front where I actually had parked. The funny thing is, my mother-in-law didn't even see me walk by the car.
It's the thing about a busy brain. It's like I am juggling an ultra marathon of like balls in the air,
Mm-hmm.
just like going task, motion, walking parking lots, also all the lines and stuff, like open spaces. Like, how can I know which car is mine? Like, yeah.
Well, hey, this has been a great. Tell people how they can get to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I'm Rachel CCI Path on YouTube, and then on Instagram and Facebook, I'm also Rachel CCI Path. And if people have questions, I will try to get back to them if they want to message me to learn more about this, and I can send off some resources.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Rachel. I'm going
thank
to
you.
link the channels and her YouTube, and the other 2 that you just mentioned. And see, I don't
All the
remember all the
tubes.
names. I'm going to list all the tubes down below. So if you want to get in touch with Rachel, click on one of the tubes below.
Thank
Also, I
you.
want to tell you guys, I have something exciting to share, but I can't share it yet. Stay tuned for more information. And we're also helping the Brain Injury Association of America. So I'm going to link that below as well. If you want to donate to the Brain Injury Association of America, click below. There'll be a direct link. Anything that you give, all of that goes directly to the Brain Injury Association. Rob gets 0. So it's been great having you today, Rachel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone because you never know when somebody will hear this message that needs to hear it. Bye.
Not the end, just re-inspired. This is me, my life rewired.